Welcome back to SPBL Live. I'm your host, Carson Piasky, and joining me is Will Main, Garrett Brooks, and Angel Diaz, the co-host of this podcast. We are looking forward to a fantastic SPBL season coming up in 2025. But first, we need to recap the 2024 SPBL season for all of you new viewers out there and those of you who are new to the league. We had 5 teams in the SPBL in 2024, and in 5th place of those 5 teams was the Gravediggers. The Gravediggers had a season that kind of got derailed a little bit. They were comprised of Nate Smith, Alan Edeker, Sam Honeycutt, and Rob Downing. And Sam Honeycutt did get injured they started with Logan Shira, did not have Alan Edeker at the start, ended up getting Alan through an injury to Sam Honeycutt, which actually forced a retirement out of Sam. The season kind of got derailed a little bit, but we did see some glimmer of life out of them when they did beat the Mystics late in the season to keep their playoff hopes alive. Ultimately, it was not enough as they finished the season with just 1 win. And Angel, if I could ask you really quick, what do you think went wrong for the Gravediggers? Obviously, they were a team that the media was not very high on to start the season going into it, and things went from bad to worse with the injury for Sam. What do you think that they can reflect on going into the next season?
Yeah, like I said, I think Sam was a big loss. Not only is he one of their better players, but he is their primary ball handler. And this is a team where if you lose out on Sam, then you don't really have that playmaker to feed someone like Nate. You don't have someone to feed someone like, the rest of these guys. So I think that Nate is their star player. It starts with him. But he is someone who is relatively dependent on others setting him up. So once you lose Sam, I think that's a big loss, not only for the team, but for your star player. So I would say they need to find their replacement, a long-term replacement, in someone who can distribute the ball and help others get better shots.
That's well said. And Garrett, I know Garrett, member of the Fall Hogs, who just won the SPBL championship, and we'll get to you more soon. But you played the Gravediggers 1 time this season, and you came away with a 5-point win. It was a relatively close game, and it was the first game of the season for you. What do you think, or second game of the season for you? What do you think happened to them that they were so competitive with you early on, but then really fell apart coming down the stretch?
Yeah, it was pretty unfortunate for us to play them when they were healthy. I feel like everybody got a pretty easy pass to them. But as much as you know how we play, we had to slow the pace down to keep our lead because they were destroying us on the half court. So, even if they were stopping our full court press or they were stopping our fast break, we couldn't score that way. So we had a 7-point lead, I think, and we had to slow it down. So when you lose someone like Sam, who can create great shots for you all the way in the beginning of the season, you have Nate who tried his best. You can see it in his stats. Shooting 20, 23 shots a game, 60% of them are probably from 3. And when he's going on one-on-one, it's just really, really difficult to score. So losing Sam, they lost all their control. Logan tried his best, and also Sam, very underrated defender too. So when you're replacing Alan, who's still a great defender, but to me, he guards the forwards better than he does the guards. And so you're losing a forward or losing a guard defending well on top of the key. So they really lost a big key in Sam, and it really slowed them down.
They took 5th in the SPBL, the only team to not make the playoffs. That leaves us with the 4th place team, the Mystics. They were the 4 seed going into the playoffs. They finished the regular season at 2-4. They were led by their duo of Hunter and Travis, who have been together throughout the SPBL history. Neil was a welcome addition to that duo, who was a spark plug for them scoring-wise. And then they were also joined by Dave Keena, who provided some nice rebounding and post support. This team was a team that also struggled during the regular season. They went 1-1 against the Gravediggers, but they did have the surprise upset victory over the Scrappers, which propelled them into the playoffs over the Gravediggers. And that was a victory that I got to see in person and was a very surprising sight to say the least. A lot of free throws made from this team down the stretch. A bunch of guys who are not necessarily known as free throw makers, but this team had some great composition. They had a nice ball handler in Travis, a scorer in Neal, a great post threat in Hunter, and a rebounding glue guy in Dave. When they came back against the Scrappers in the playoffs, it was their second meeting with the Scrappers. They did fall in the first round, unable to advance to the championship. Will, if you were to look at this team and give them an MVP, a surprise MVP, maybe as to why they were able to beat the Scrappers, who would you say that was?
Well, getting to see that game in person, and it was a great game to watch. I mean, the MVP of that game for me was Dave with his free throw shooting that came out of nowhere. But I think if I remember correctly, he hit like 5 or 6. He went like 5 for 6 from free throws, which is just unheard of in the SPBL. And Dave is just not much of a shooter. But I think like this team, the way they play, they rely a lot on kind of like streaky shooting. So like that's how they can like reach the highs of beating someone like the Scrappers, but then also lose to like a Gravediggers team because like they kind of rely on tough shots, and it's like the most exciting and electric team to watch in the league. But due to like their play style, it kind of has like highs and lows, while other teams might be more consistent.
That's well said. And in that game, obviously, Neil Sanity is what we like
True.
to say, struck on the Scrappers, and uh, due to him and the contributions of the others, as you mentioned, they were able to take down the Scrappers. Unfortunately, they could not do it again in the playoffs, although they came very close to doing so. And we'll look to see if this team composition returns again in 2025, if that duo of Hunter and Travis stays together, and where they will look to move in 2025. Next up, we had the Blackfriars. They were a very highly anticipated team going into the season with newcomer Sam Satterwhite, a potential league MVP candidate. He came into the league and was immediately a high octane offensive engine for this team. They have the duo of Joe Keena and Nate Bryers, who have been together throughout their time in the SPBL. And they were joined by Stephen Keena, who was fresh off of a championship with the Scrappers from 2023. And this team, another great team composition wise, a lot of guys that fill into their roles nicely. And the highlight really of this season was they went 1-1 against the Ball Hogs. They beat them by 1 point in the regular season. Garrett was not there, but he was filled in by his brother, Jacob. And then they later on lost the Ball Hogs by 1 point in the regular season when Garrett was back. And then the Ball Hogs were triumphant over them in the first round of the SPBL as in the 2 versus 3 seed matchup. Garrett, you got to know this team pretty well over the season. Although you weren't able to play in that first matchup, you did end up coming and you got to see them and how they finished on the stretch, beating your team on a last-second shot from Nate Bryers. What do you think of this team? What did you think of Sam Satterwhite as a newcomer in the league?
He's definitely the best one. I mean, he was unreal, especially seeing him when I'm not going against him. I mean, he was cooking my team. So I had to definitely try my best to stop him. But when he wasn't getting guarded by me, dude, he was going crazy. And honestly, if you watch the last game we played, I really don't know how we won. I think we shot like 8 for 12 in the fourth quarter or something like that. I mean, like for a little bit of a run, it was unreal. And all of them can defend pretty decent too. So this team was a recipe for disaster going against anyone.
Yeah, you guys had an explosion in that fourth quarter against the Blackfriars. It looked like they were in control, but like you mentioned, you really took up the assignment of guarding Sam as he's such a scoring threat offensively, and you have to do it both offensively and defensively, kind of being the engine and also harassing their best players to the best you can. And we noticed that Sam's probably debatably 2 worst performances of the season were when you were guarding him. And I think that's just a testament to how well you were able to defend him because, like he said, against pretty much every other team. And whenever you were not guarding him, he was just getting buckets after buckets at will.
For sure.
Moving on to the number 2 team in the league, the Scrappers, the back-to-back champions from 2022 and 2023, fall short in 2024 in the championship game. They were the number 1 seed after the regular season. They lost twice during the regular season, but they got the 1 seed through a tiebreaker. And like we mentioned earlier, they beat the Mystics in round 1 of the playoffs. This was a team that has the trio of Chris Kina, Chris Heights, and Carson Braswell. All 3 of them are 2-time SPBL champions. In their first championship season, they were joined by Logan Shira. Second championship season, they were joined by Steven Kina. And now in this third season, they were joined by Michael Roberts, who is a bit of a change up from the other 2 in terms of play style and what he brings to this team. But it was a very highly anticipated addition, as this team was notably lacking in the height and rebounding department. So getting him seemed to be a big boost for this team. Angel, what can you make of how his addition to the Scrappers roster played out, and overall how the season played out for a team that was obviously the number 1 target in the league? Everyone wanted to beat them. They made it back to the championship and just fell short.
Yeah, so this is my pick to win a championship early in the season. So like how you said, so in season number 1, you have Logan. Season number 2, you have Steven. You get Mike to replace those guys. So Michael's a great player. Very strong upside defender, great offensive rebounder, and he provided a lot of good value to the team. But the difference is he's not a very great second option in regards to scoring the ball. And when you look at this team outside of Chris Kina, you don't really have a consistent number 2 option, which is what I think led to the fall of this team in the championship round. So I think that someone just needs to step up and provide more consistent scoring, because you have someone like Carson or Chris Heights or Michael, which are all great complementary players, but no one who really filled in that Steven/Logan role, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. They were a fantastic team to watch. Chris, obviously the engine of this team. He is one of the greatest players in SPBL history. Obviously, the back-to-back champions going for the three-peat, and it's really tough to three-peat in any sport. And they were just short of doing so here. But a fantastic effort from this team all season long to capture that 1 seed, make it to the championship, but just fell short. And they fell short to none other than the Ball Hogs, obviously led by Garrett, league MVP, SPBL league MVP, finals MVP, just one of the, if not the greatest player in the SPBL history. Garrett obviously joined by Luke and Josh Bryers and Zach as well. And this team was very much looked down upon by the media to start the year, to say the least. No one really thought that this team had the firepower that the other teams had. We obviously knew that Garrett was an engine and could get things going for a team on both sides of the ball, but we didn't think that there was quite enough there around him to do it. But we were proven very much wrong, both by Garrett outperforming his own abilities from previous seasons, as well as great contributions from the rest of his team. And it led to a championship game that was really a pretty dominant performance over the back-to-back champions. And Garrett, there's no one better to ask than you. What went right for you guys this season? What was different about this season that you guys were able to claim the title? And what do you have to say to your teammates who helped you get there?
Well, first we had a couple things go our way in the season, a couple 1-point games, but I think it was just a fast break like usual. But the chemistry, man. I mean, me and Josh, dude, we were together like a back of a hand. I mean, he'd close his eyes and it'd be right in my hands if he's passing the ball, and vice versa. So I think the chemistry between Luke, Josh, me, and Zach were just unreal. We were confident in every single shot. And defensively, Zach improved so much from the year before. He was not the best last year. So this year for him to play great defense, Josh playing great down low when I get switched. I mean, it was just everything clicked, man. It was great. But I would love to hear what Angel and Will have to say about us because they both picked us to pick last, I believe. So I'd love to hear what they have to say about this.
Pressure's on. Pressure's on.
Yeah, I'll go. I can't remember exactly where I had y'all, but I definitely had probably around last was probably where I put y'all. What big shout out to Grant Allenbaugh, friend of the league. I think he actually was maybe the only media member to pick the Ball Hogs to win it all. So got to give him his flowers. But I kind of see it as like just like the team, like kind of what Garrett was saying, like the team chemistry and like when I was looking at the supporting cast, I kind of see players who have like their own talents but aren't really like a center point of any team, but like together they like just added up to be more than $1. Like it's like 4 quarters adding up to be like $2, and it was good enough to win the championship. So it was impressive. And also, like captured the heart of the fans. I was rooting for them by the end of the year. Happy to be wrong.
Appreciate that.
So what do you have to say for yourself?
I can't lie. Me? Oh, so yeah, I can't lie. I had you guys finishing last. No, I'm here. So I can't lie. I had you guys finishing last, if I recall. So the thought process was that, obviously Garrett was going to be Garrett. He was going to do Garrett things on the court. That the supporting cast is where I had some doubts. That I think you guys outplayed my expectations. I think, like you said, you had great chemistry on the court. You guys played to the strength, which is take advantage of, getting down transition, scoring easy points out in the fast break. And I think you guys were it just came down to hitting shots. Josh was a great shooter this year. And Luke was a complimentary scorer. Zach was being Zach, making cuts, making good reads. So I think you guys just had the best chemistry in the league, like he said. And I'll admit I was wrong. I'll be a man and admit I was wrong.
Yeah, it was obviously a fantastic season, and congratulations to you, Garrett, and the Ball Hogs. Really a unprecedented run from you guys. And with you on the floor, your team only ever lost 1 game. So this overall fantastic season. Could not be more proud from a media standpoint to prove us all wrong, except for, of course, Grant Allenbaugh. But that is it for the 2024 season. That is the season recap. And we are now going to be looking forward to 2025. First, let us go over the players that will no longer be with us in 2025. First is Carson Braswell. As we mentioned, he's a 2-time champion with the Scrappers. He was one of the 3 of the trio of Chris, and Carson. The trio that won back-to-back champions, had a chance at the three-peat, did not quite get there. And Will, I would love to hear from you. A fellow lefty, pretty rare in this league. What did you see from Carson in his career? What do you have to say to Carson as he goes off into retirement?
Yeah, I mean, probably might go down as one of the most underrated players in league history. The least selfish player I've ever played with. He'll always look for the open man. He'll always play defense. He won't take shots that he thinks are bad or low percentage. And he's just a great teammate. We have it in there, sportsmanship award. Like he's gonna dap you up every single time, whether you brick, airball, you make it, like trip, like he's gonna dap you up, and that means a lot as a teammate because he believes in you to keep shooting. And I think that's why they just kept winning, and why Chris Kino wanted him on his team every year because he just does everything you want, and he doesn't even take any the shine for himself. So I think just a league legend. It's like if the Chiefs, Kelsey retires, it's really sad to see. Like he's a league legend, and I'll be seeing him soon. He's going to Chicago, so I know he has great things on the way. But much love.
You mentioned he's a winner. He does have the highest win percentage in SPBL history. A true glue guy who really helped propel that Scrappers team and was a great supporting piece for them. Next, we have Steven Kina. Steven played 2 seasons in the SPBL He was with the Scrappers in 2023 when they won their championship. Mentioned he got moved to the Blackfires in 2024, a team that was very highly anticipated coming into the season. And although they were unable to advance to the championship or win the championship as they had hoped to start the season, Steven had a very solid year. Some up and down performances, a bit streaky at times, but nonetheless, he was a great number 2 option to pair alongside Sam Satterwhite. And Angel, I'd love to hear from you, someone who's seen him for 2 seasons and saw him win a championship in 2023. What do you have to say about Stephen Keena's career and say to him as he goes to retirement?
Yeah, I think Steven's a great player. He is a great scorer. He's a great defender. Obviously won the championship in 2023. And I believe he was the youngest player in this league, which is quite impressive because he was able to make an impact right away when he joined the league a couple years ago. So I think the league's going to miss him. I think he was a great player. I think he had a lot of potential, which is sad to see because maybe 2 years from now, he's one of the better players in this league. And he wasn't far from that either. So I would say this is, a big loss for the league. But obviously, you got always new additions coming forward in the future. But Steven was a great player. He will be missed by, all the league mates there because he was a great guy too.
Right, and most noteworthy, he hit what is called the shot in the 2023 SPBL Championship, which ended up propelling the Scrappers to their second straight championship. And our last member who will be retiring is none other than Garrett Brooks. And Garrett just has filled up the stat sheet, filled up his accolades. As you can see, these accolades come onto the board. There's pretty much nothing that he has not accomplished at this point in the league now that he won a championship in 2024. Just a fantastic player, and we will be very sad to see him go. He is known as the statistical GOAT of the league and has racked up as many accolades as you can name. And Garrett, I would love to hear from you, your overall experience in the league and any parting words that you have for the league that will dearly miss you. Did we lose Garrett? We might be having some technical difficulties here.
Just joined the call now.
Let's see. Well, we can wait for him to get back. But I guess in the meantime, if one of you wants to comment on Garrett's statistical profile and his accolades, as you see in the chart, his trophy case is filled.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of had like a Giannis career arc with great stats, kind of like similar play styles, lanky defenders, constantly moving, constantly running. And then he finished it off with his championship of guys who they didn't think of as a super team, but they just kind of came together. Like they had great team culture and they ended up with his championship. And I think what a great way to, end your career on a championship. Like it's fantastic. It's what everyone dreams of. So.
Yeah, and arguably the most decorated player in league history. The accolades speak for themselves. And he was someone who obviously no one ever doubted the talent, but there's obviously some doubts in regard to if he could win at the highest stage. And that's exactly what he proved. And just like how Will said, what a great way to finish your career, winning the championship in your final year in this league. So couldn't have written up a better legacy for Garrett, and he will always be cemented as one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player in league history.
Yeah, and he will be joining us quite often now on the podcast. He'll be calling some games with us and be reviewing the teams throughout the 2025 season. Definitely still a friend of the league for sure. League legend, and we will be excited to have him on our side now. After his dominance in the game, he can now dominate from the media side as well. Hopefully we can get him back in here shortly as we have some great news for him.
Yeah.
Welcome back to SPBL Live. Sorry for the technical issues, but we are back, and Garrett is back with us. he missed us talking about him while he was gone, but we certainly had a lot to say, and we would love to hear from Garrett about his experience in the SPBL, what it was like, and what he can take away from the league. And I guess any parting words to the league as they lose, if possibly their greatest player of all time, and just an awesome player to have in the league.
Yeah, I will say it was one of the most fun I've ever played, having played basketball, because I mean, y'all probably know it is so hard to find just anytime you want to play basketball, a competitive league, even just refs in general, or just trying to get 8 to 10 guys that just want to play ball and have a good time and actually play competitively. So when people leave the league, they're definitely gonna finally acknowledge that. Like it's just that it was just a blessing to play, and I loved everyone that was in the league. It was so much fun. I'm so glad I got to do it. And yeah, I feel like once you leave, you truly understand how fun it was. So and it was fun to go against Chris all the time too. It was like a little rivalry, even though he got the best of me 2 times. But it was so much fun, man. And I think everybody enjoys it, even though there's some trash talking here and there. It just makes it more fun.
Yeah, he will certainly be missed, and credit to all of those who help to put the league together each year. Obviously, the players also are assisting in the game officiating and scorekeeping, so really well organized league. And obviously, we mentioned earlier, you will still be a friend of the league. We hope to see you on some game calls and some podcasts throughout the year. And it should be a fun time having you on the media side now, as opposed to dominating on the floor. I'm sure you'll have some great commentary as a former player. And Garrett does not know this, but we have a special announcement to make here that Garrett is the first ever nominee inductee into the SPBL Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Garrett. What a fantastic career. Just an awesome accomplishment for you. One last congratulations as you end your career in the SPBL, the first ever Hall of Fame member.
I'm touched. I'm choking up right now. Wow. I did send a text to Chris after I did say I was gone, that I was going to be in the Hall of Fame. Did not know it was real. So I really, it's honestly, it's life changing. I mean, I might just go ahead and start giving up studying for the CPA because I'm in the SPBL Hall of Fame. So I don't know if I can really. I've plateaued at this point.
It is 100% real. It is probably the greatest accomplishment that any of us could ever imagine.
Yeah, that's top line LinkedIn
getting
right
in our
there.
lives. And yeah, it really you are enshrined forever. We'll see if we can get you like a bust to put up in the St. Pius gym. But we'll work out the logistics of that later. The league budget, from what I understand, is a bit tight right now. But Hall of Fame inductee, first ever Hall of Fame inductee, Garrett Brooks.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Well deserved.
So we had these 5 teams in 2024, as I mentioned. We will be losing the 3 retirees, including and the I guess 4th retiree in the midseason Sam Honeycutt retirement, and we will also be losing Logan Shira for the 2025 season. So that leaves us with these players as the likely returners for 2025. Nothing is official yet, but we will be looking forward to having some new talent join the league. There are some prospects out there that we are looking to add to the league that are very interested, and we should be seeing some great returning casts next season. But if I could ask each of you, I'll start with Will. What is one team up that you want to see in 2025?
I'm so glad I got to go first because it has to be Chris Keenan and Nathan Smith. I mean, I think just bringing the BDE duo together, and I mean, I know Nathan has talked for like since the SPBL's inception that he wants to be on Chris's team, and Chris has actually like blocked it as an idea for so long. But after the kind of the poor performance from Nathan Smith's team, I think that Chris has to give in, and the team up. We need to see the team up before, before Nate quits the league. Honestly, I think.
Nate has been pushing for that for
Yeah.
some time now, and
Yeah.
we'll see if he finally gets his wish in 2025 to join that Scrappers team looking to get back to a championship. Angel, for you, what is a team up that you want to see in 2025?
I would be interested in seeing low brother connection. You got the Kinas, possibly teaming both of them up. I think that would be pretty cool to see. And why not get all the Briars together? I mean, just add all of them together in one team. I think that would be pretty interesting to see. So, it makes sense. I think the chemistry would be there. There's no excuses at that point. So, I think those are a couple of combinations that we could experiment with next year. I think it would be pretty cool to see.
Chemistry could not get any higher than a three-brother connection, but and it is nice for the Briars. They all kind of fill different roles too, so
Yeah.
that could be a potential team up. Garrett, over to you. What is a team up that you would like to see in 2025?
Well, there's some rumors going around that I've been told, but I personally would love to see Zach and Dave. I think Zach, I feel like he's going to be a little lost puppy, after this season with me gone. So he doesn't really have anyone to pair up with. So I would love to see him and Dave go together. I don't know if it would work at all, but I think it'd be hilarious.
That would be funny. I think that
I
might need a lot
would
of
love
help.
to see them too. I don't know who else is going to go with them.
Chris and Nate,
but-
and Zach and Dave.
Well,
Yeah.
then Chris loses his the Heights duo that he's had for a long time. But
Relationships are meant
there's
to be broken. So
well,
I
who
wanna
knows?
see
There
it.
could be new league comers that could pair well with the Zach and Dave duo. Uh, there was some there's a documented history between Zach and Dave, especially among the media members. Uh, you know, comments here and there, specifically coming from Dave, not really anything coming from Zach, but it would be interesting to see them team up and see what would come of that relationship. And as you mentioned, kind of the lost puppies uniting, and well, who knows what would happen? They both are glue guys, so to speak. And so with the right team up, you know, never know what the possibilities could be there.
I will say this season coming up is one of the worst seasons that I feel like I'm missing because all of these new guys could possibly come in and a lot of teams are being changed. And I feel like I'm one of those guys you can throw in a hat and like just get a team together and I could just roll with it. So it's very interesting this year how the teams are going to be alike because I love a random team. I know I wanted Zach or I wanted Luke last year, but I do hate that I can't be there this year, dude. Like I would love to get a random team. Just don't even tell me until the first day.
Just throw three guys around Garrett and
Mhm.
see if he can will them to a victory. But obviously, you have great chemistry with pretty much everybody in the league, so no doubts there. But yeah, it should be interesting to see what team compositions come of these returning players and the new players that are added moving forward. Now, for the 2025 season, for all these new players and the returning players, we want to go over the rule changes that will be taking place. So, looking back in the past, we had the triple bonus that was added as a deterrent to fouling out since there's no substitutes. We had the 5-second rule, and we added the extra timeout to try to help the flow of the game and give teams some extra chances to catch a breath. But in 2025, we are going to be instituting the Elam ending. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, we have a great breakdown here for you of the Elam ending. So first, what will happen is the first dead ball with under 4 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter, the clock will be turned off. So in this example here, you can see The score is 40-36 in the fourth quarter. The first dead ball under 4 minutes, the clock gets stopped and turned off. From that point on, the score it turns into a target score game instead of a time game. So in this scenario, the target score would be set at 48 points, and it would be the first team to 48 points or more wins the game. And there's a lot of reasons why this has been implemented. One of the main reasons is just to help the flow of the end of games. Obviously, there's been a lot of instances in which games have been kind of dragged out at the end with free throws. And there's been, this league doesn't necessarily have the best free throw shooters. So the fouling tends to start pretty early on, especially with no shot clock. Fouling can start with 2 minutes, 3 minutes left in the game and really prolong the end of the game. And so the idea is really to add some more exciting endings. And Garrett, as someone who has played in the league, has experienced some of those instances with the fouling at the end, what do you think of this change, moving to a target score so that they play through the end of the game instead of, kind of drawing out the clock at the end?
I think it's definitely needed. Like I mentioned earlier, we played the Gravediggers, when they were healthy. And again, the only reason we won is because we took 45 seconds of possession. So to me, and I think that would totally eliminate that and make it way better. And plus, it would stop us from leaving at 10:45 some nights. So, and the games will be a lot interesting. I mean, you're still forcing possessions to go through and take good shots. So, yeah, no, I think it's definitely needed. And of course, it's coming the year I leave. So,
you will not get to be one who experiences it, but you will get to see it play out. And this format will add an interesting aspect in which every single game will have a game-winning shot. Every single team is going to have to find someone at the end of the game to step up and hit a game-winning shot to push them over the target score. Will, if you could, predict right now, who do you think are some of the most clutch players to look forward to in 2025? Who can be some of those guys who will be the go-to guys for their team that will be kind of pushing them over that limit?
Yeah, I could definitely see I guess Sam Satterwhite. I think of him as like a kind of a clutch player. Low key, like Dave with his free throws. Like I don't know what he's gonna do because he won't be able to hit the free throws late. So he might have to just start making some clutch layups. And then obviously, I kind of look at Chris is definitely a player who's gonna step up towards the end of the games and really turn it all the way on.
Yeah, obviously Chris, one of the best players in the league, an offensive engine for his team. He will definitely be one who is trying to find his way to score in the end. Angel, do you see any potential strategies that teams could maybe develop as they kind of adjust to this new ending? Not necessarily playing to wind the time down, but they need to get some buckets at the end.
Yeah, I think half court scoring is going to be a bit more of a priority now. I think now with this new rule, I think teams are really going to lock in the last few minutes because it's a whole different ballgame now. I think that this is where half court offense is now a priority. Having someone who can score when when the whole defense is set is going to be key. I think that's going to be the main thing. And something else that I'd like to add with this rule is I know there might be some frustration and some arguments against this rule, but this isn't necessarily a rule that gives a particular team a severe advantage, in my opinion. I think that this isn't like a rule comparable to something like a defensive 3 seconds in the paint rule, where if you have an elite interior defender in the paint who won't be able to, just camp down there. And yeah, that would cause a big disadvantage for a team like that. But with this rule, I think we're just going to see a lot more excitement. As you said, game winners every game. And I think it's going to really speed up the flow of the game because I had the pleasure of covering the Scrappers and Mystics game, round 1. And as you and I know, Carson, that game, obviously towards the end, the flow just wasn't ideal. And I really think that this rule is going to change that for the good of this league.
Definitely. There were several games, including that one specifically, that were just fantastic games all throughout the game. and it felt like they were peaking right with about 3 minutes left. And then right after, that point, when one team gets out to a 4-point lead, then it just kind of turns into a foul battle. And really, right when you feel like the game should be peaking and reaching its head, it kind of all gets drawn out after that. So this, I feel like, should help keep those moments exciting and really keep the excitement up all the way through the end of the game. Now, our producers put together a list of pros and cons for those of you who are unfamiliar or still skeptical. So the shorter average game length is obviously one that is much needed around the league. Many people have been complaining about the length of games and how late some of the nights go. And it should create for more exciting endings as well, with fewer intentional fouls. Now, the stat keeping is something that is going to be different, but overall, it shouldn't impact stats too much from a historical perspective. 8 points in the last 4 minutes is a round average for SPBL games. So it's not like anything's going to be dramatically impacted. Garrett mentioned the dribbling out of the clock strategy that they took on. That will no longer be a valid strategy. And then there's also the clock operating disparity, as I'm sure Garrett could point out. Not everyone who was managing the clock on during the games was always the best or most consistent clock managers.
True.
But yeah, so the overall, a lot of changes with this rule, but we feel as though the pros in this case definitely outweigh the cons. Any confusion about the rule or any implementation of it should get solved pretty quickly. It's not too complicated of a rule to grasp onto. Everyone that knows playing pickup in the park up to 21, you're playing to a target score. This is very similar to that. It's just that the target score varies based on what the score of the game is at the time. So overall, it should be a very exciting rule change for 2025, and this will be the format moving forward. And so with that, our next podcast will be the SPBL team reveals for 2025. It's going to be a highly anticipated podcast. Should be some interesting team compositions coming up in that podcast. Would love any parting words from my co-hosts, Will, Angel, Garrett. No?
Yeah, no, I think we're pretty good. Just congratulations to Garrett again, and great job leading the cast, Carson. And
yeah, congratulations to Garrett. Fantastic season, and we'll be looking forward to covering the 2025 SPBL season on SPBL Live. We look forward to seeing you back for the team reveal for 2025, and we will be back once again calling games during the season. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you have a good night, and we'll see you back here soon.
You guys, congrats, Garrett, once again.
Thank you.